Brian Daboll said this offensive player was the most improved throughout the offseason, and I'm excited to talk about him on today's video. But first, I just want to give a big thank you and a major shout out to everybody that has subscribed to the channel. Yesterday, we crossed over 49,000 subscribers. That is a major accomplishment, and 50K is right around the corner. So if you want free, informative, entertaining coverage every single day on your New York Giants, hit that big red sub button right now. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green, and Brian Daboll told the media that Lawrence Cager is probably one of the most improved players on this football team throughout the offseason, talking about minicamp as well as OTAs, and that was pretty interesting for me to hear, considering we had just heard from multiple beat reporters that Daniel Bellinger could be a cut candidate. So Brian Daboll hyping up Lawrence Cager. Well, maybe it seems like Daniel Bellinger could be on his way out. We're going to break all that down, but let's start with the most improved player throughout the offseason, Lawrence Cager. Look, he is built like someone that should be dominant in the National Football League. 6'5", 220 pounds. He is your prototypical tight end that you want to be a factor in the receiving game. Still just 26 years old, so he is going to improve. And it sounds like he did a lot of that this offseason. Jordan Renard of ESPN wrote this, saying, quote, tight end Darren Waller's retirement opened opportunities for others. It looked like this spring, like Cager and fourth-round pick Theo Johnson will be asked to fill that pass-catching role. Both received some first-team reps and made plays in what primarily serves as a passing camp. And that is true. It's a non-padded, scripted practice. So the players that are able to really shine through are the ones that were probably really good in 7-on-7, the ones that are really good in your pass skeleton type of drills, and the receiving skills that Cager possesses, should make him someone that looks like they are having a really good time and dominating, and he was, but I see this still as this Giants tight end depth chart with Daniel Bellinger as tight end 1, Theo Johnson right there. I think Chris Manhertz or Jack Stoll could be that tight end 3, and you also have Lawrence Cager and Tyree Jackson. But it sounds like Cager did enough to impress and could continue to climb that depth chart. I just want to take a look at what he has done over his NFL career. Not a lot, but you do see that he has some receiving skills. When he came over from the Jets to the Giants in the early part of that 2022 season, we saw him be used a little bit as a pass catcher. Not so much last year, kind of buried on the depth chart with Waller here. But in 2022, he had those 13 grabs for almost 120 yards, and he had that touchdown. The reps and really just overall the usage hasn't necessarily been there for Cager. His rookie year with the New York Jets, playing just 39 snaps, 1 snap in 2021, and then after signing with the Giants, after he was cut by the Jets following week 1, that was when he had his most usage, 213 snaps, and he had 101 snaps this past year. He was pretty dang good, though, throughout his 4-year college career. The first 3, he played for Miami. Shout out to you. Young Marsh was a big fan of Miami. And then he transferred to Georgia, where he was pretty solid as well. He was a 4-star prospect coming out of high school, so he's got talent. He is someone that could live up to the bill. I mean, in 43 games played in college, he had 78 grabs for almost 1,200 yards, 14.8 yards per catch, showing off that explosiveness and really that just athleticism to stretch the seam. And he also had 14 touchdowns. And really, it sounds like the Giants overall just want to get a little bit more explosive at that tight end position. And with Cager, really a wide receiver that's playing tight end. He's kind of a tight end trapped inside of a wide receiver's body. Could he and Theo Johnson be those 2 seam stretchers and more of your modern day prototypical tight end? Could he be that player? Maybe so, but maybe just the overall haul and change and new look of this tight end room could mean Cager is in and more of a factor, and a guy entering his 3rd season like Daniel Bellinger could be someone that may be on the bubble of making this roster or watching others take his snaps. Connor Hughes, who covers the New York Giants as well as the New York Jets, over the weekend was asked pretty much who is one player that Giants fans are expecting to make this roster that might actually be on the bubble. And he said Daniel Bellinger. And this was eye-opening for me. But then Pat Leonard kind of backdoored that. He works for the New York Daily News and covers the Giants and said Daniel Bellinger is actually further down the depth chart than people realized. And Brian Daboll throughout the offseason has kind of hinted at Bellinger being hurt, but then Bellinger will say he's not hurt. So maybe Bellinger's like, I don't want people to know I'm hurt. And Daboll's like, we'll say it out there. But he has been watching more so than participating in these reps with guys like Manhertz and Stoll and Bellinger and Johnson getting those first reps. I do want to make it abundantly clear, though, I don't think Daniel Bellinger is a cut candidate for a lot of different reasons. One, he's one of the better tight ends on this team. He's the most proven, and he also has a grasp on this playbook and a grasp on this roster. This is a third-year player that has been here for some time. And if you're the New York Giants, if you are Brian Daboll and you are Joe Schoen, Daniel Bellinger is a player that you drafted. You spent a draft pick on him. You don't really want to cut him after 3 years and show, maybe we missed out on this pick and we didn't even really give it a chance to grow in this system. I do not think Bellinger will be cut for a multitude of reasons, and obviously what he's done on the football field over the past couple of seasons. As a rookie, I thought the sky was the limit for Bellinger. I remember when he went to that tight end university camp with Travis Kelce as well as George Kittle, and I think it was Kelce, maybe it was Kittle, I don't remember which one, but they were hyping him up, saying that Bellinger was the guy that impressed them the most, and he had a solid rookie season, 30 receptions for 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he showed that he could be an inline blocking tight end as well, a 61.5 Pro Football Focus grade there. But then when you go out and you trade a third-round pick for Darren Waller, who plays that same position, you're going to see your workload kind of decrease a little bit, and that's what happened. Just 25 catches, 255 yards. The yards per catch went up, touchdowns went down, and the blocking went down a little bit as well. But I think you can tell when Bellinger is on the field, the Giants are just a little bit better. And Justin Pennick of Talkin' Giants, they host an awesome podcast as well. Check them out. Shout out to Justin, a good dude. He tweeted this out, and I thought it made a lot of sense. I think Daniel Bellinger has been imperative to the Giants' offense not being a complete and utter disaster at times. He's a stabilizer as a blocker. The Giants in 2022 with Bellinger on the football field, 22.8 points per game, number 14 in the National Football League, whereas when he did not play in that same season, the Giants had the 25th best scoring offense. And look, I don't think the Giants are going to cut Bellinger. I know there's a lot of smoke out there. We did a couple of videos on it. I actually think the players that are on the roster bubble at this position are Chris Manhertz and Jack Stoll. Both these players joined the Giants early on in the spring in NFL free agency. And if you're going to keep Bellinger, and if you're going to keep Theo Johnson, are you really going to keep 2 blocking tight ends? I mean, I went back and I looked at the initial 53-man rosters that Joe Schoen has had in year 2022, his first year as the general manager, and year 2023, his second year as the general manager. In year 1, he kept just 2 tight ends on that initial 53-man roster. And there's a bunch of ways you could look at that, and some GMs will use that as roster manipulation, hoping some of these players clear waivers and you add them to the practice squad and you play that game of where they're being elevated and not each and every week. 3 tight ends in 2023. So I don't think the Giants are going to keep more than 3 tight ends. And I think Johnson, Bellinger are going to make this roster, which means it's going to be a battle between Jack Stoll, Chris Manhertz, and Lawrence Cager. Let's talk about both Manhertz and Stoll. Both these players are blocking tight ends. That is what they do at the National Football League level. They are players that are here to help you fortify your run game and also stick in the line, stick in on these passing downs. Look, in 120 games, Chris Manhertz has 26 receptions for 271 yards and just 2 touchdowns. He is pretty much your third tackle. When you want to go jumbo set, Chris Manhertz is out there. Jack Stoll, more so of like your modern-day fullback. When he played with the Philadelphia Eagles, he was that guy that was motioning from the left to the right in the backfield behind the line of scrimmage and being a guy that would occasionally attack in the flat, but most of the things that Stoll and Manhertz do are more blocking related. And honestly, I don't see a way that the New York Giants are going to keep 2 blocking tight ends on this roster. You got Bellinger. He could do a little bit of that. Maybe one of those players will stay on this roster. I had heard a couple months ago the Giants were looking for somewhat of a modern-day H-back, somewhat of a fullback to add to this roster. I think Stoll does that at a higher level than Manhertz does. Stoll obviously a little bit younger as well. If I had to guess, I would say Stoll makes this roster over Manhertz, but it's really going to be a camp competition. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if both of them were cut. If you just roll with 3 tight ends, and it's Bellinger, and it's Theo Johnson, and it's Lawrence Cager, and you hope that Stoll or Manhertz clears waivers, and then you can sign them to your roster spot, and you can elevate them the 4 times that you want to. So always that roster manipulation when you get down to cut down day. I think one of these players could make the roster, but maybe both of them actually end up being cut, and the Giants hoping that they could be practice squad pickups. I want you to predict it, though. Who is going to make this roster? Is it Lawrence Cager? Is it Jack Stoll? Is it Chris Manhertz, most improved, or one of the 2 blocking tight ends? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And if you haven't yet, hit me up over on social media. I'm tweeting and posting about Big Blue all the time at @MarshallGreen_. Hit me up over there. And remember, we're going to be live on the channel Monday afternoon. So turn your notifications on and subscribe to the channel.